blessing on each and every one of us. We pray for His mercy and blessing on Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May the peace and blessing continue to be upon his household, his companions, and all the Muslims to the day of Qiyamah. Our class continues today, inshallah. We continue from where we stopped yesterday. So yesterday we talked about Abdul, and the next chapter in the book is Ridda. So the next chapter in the book is Ridda. So Al-Jahiliyyah, Al-Fisku, Abdul wa Ridda. They are grouped under the same chapter. They are put under the same chapter. So Ridda, it simply means apostasy. So it simply means apostasy. When somebody apostatizes, so it means the person has committed what is called Ridda. So literally it means when somebody go back to kufru. When somebody go back, the word Ridda is derived from the word Rodda, Yaruddu, Roddan or Riddatun or Riddatan. So the Rodda, Yaruddu, Roddan. How? Riddatan. So in other words, the word Ridda is derived from the word Rodda. And Rodda, like we understand, it means for something to go back, either to send something back or for something to go back to where it comes from. And that is why the word Ridda is defined as Ar-Rujuhu fi Tariqi Ladhi Jaha Minu. Ridda to Rajulin. So for somebody to have committed Ridda, it means Rujuhu fi Tariqi Ladhi Jaha Minu. So when somebody go back to the path or to the way from where he has come from. From this definition, it means somebody will be considered as somebody who has committed Ridda if he go back to where he's coming from. So we can look at this definition or this understanding from two perspectives. The first perspective is that somebody who was originally a kafir then becomes a Muslim, then later go back to his kufru, then that is Ridda. Or when somebody was not originally a practicing Muslim, or somebody who does not actually actively participate in kufru or any act of a shirk, but is still not a Muslim. So no matter the way we look at it, such a person is still not a Muslim. So if he becomes a Muslim, then and he goes back to kufru, then we call it Ridda. Otherwise, it will not be Ridda if somebody has not been in a kufru before. What I mean is that, like Azeez of Professor, he said, every child is born into what? Fitro. Is born on Fitro. In other words, they are born into Islam. So now, if somebody develop or grow as a Muslim, or somebody that knows Allah naturally, if now his sense of understanding or his sense of awareness is sharpened by the revelation of Allah through Prophet Muhammad, now he become a complete Muslim. If later the person now go back to his original form, it will not be regarded as Ridda, because he is not going back to kufr. He's just going back to his original form of what? Creation. Well, what we are trying to establish here is that going back to kufr is what is called Ridda. That is, you are coming from somewhere and you go back there. That is when it's considered Ridda. But if somebody is not coming back from kufru, then he go back to kufru, that is not actually Ridda. So we call it Ridda with the perspective or with the view that the person was a non-Muslim or a kafir before, either completely or partially. Then if somebody now become a reformed or a better Muslim and decided to go back to that act of kufru, that is Ridda. Because like we said, Ridda means to go back. Ar-ruju'u fi tariqi alladhi ja'a min. So you see, it is quite different from what is called what we call ad-dalal. We said dalal is what? Khuruju an tariqil mustaqim. That is to go out. But this means to what? To go back, to return. So we cannot use the word return or going back to somewhere except you are from there. Like somebody goes out in the morning, then he returns in the what? In the evening, he returns home. That is ruju. So going back in the morning is actually khuruj. So the Ridda, it actually means ruju fi tariqi alladhi ja'a. And technically, or from Islamic perspective, we define Ridda as what? Ar-ruju الرجوع من الإسلام إلى الكفر. الرجوع من الإسلام إلى الكفر. So that is to go back from Islam to what? To kufru. So if somebody has not gone back to kufru, or somebody was not originally a non-Muslim, so technically or the terminology will not be applicable to him. Like if somebody is a Nasrani and he becomes a Yahudiyun, or somebody was a Yahudiyun and he becomes what? Nasraniyun. So we cannot consider it what? So because technically it means arujum minal what? Minal Islam ila al-kufri. So no matter the type of kufru, any form of kufru somebody fall into, it is still ridda. Whether you become a Nasrani, Yahudiyun, or Mushrik, or whatever, or whether the shirk is complete or partial, it is still ridda. But it has to be that it is from Islam to something different from Islam. And from here, the scholar they classify ridda into 4 types, or they say ridda can happen in 4 different ways. Number 1, it can happen more than 4. Number 1, ridda fil i'tiqad. Ridda can happen by our creed, or by our belief, or by our intention. So ridda can happen because of what we have in our heart. So which means, and that is why in one hadith of Prophet Muhammad, he says somebody will sleep in the evening as a Muslim, then he wake up in the morning as a what? As a kafir. Or somebody will be a Muslim in the night, but before he wakes up in the morning, he become a what? A kafir. Or as a Muslim in the morning, but before the evening, he become a what? So the best way to understand this hadith is for somebody to become to fall into ridda in his heart, in his aqidah, without him knowing. Because this hadith is actually telling us somebody may not even be aware that he has fallen into kufru. So the best way to understand is that somebody may have done something or may have engaged in some belief or in some creed that actually nullify or go against Islam, and that is ridda actually. So the second form of ridda is the one that has to do with what? Al-Qawli, the one that has to do with our speech. So there are some speeches that when you say them, so they actually act of kufru. So it is considered ridda. And ridda can also be by what? By our action, by our jawar, by our part of our body. And ridda can also be by tarkul ta'a. That's another way. In some other classification, they say ridda can be shakku. So ridda as a result of what? A shak. So whenever you have doubt in any form of part of the religion, whether the Quran, whether the Prophet, whether the Social of Allah, if you doubt it, or if you doubt any part of Quran, it's a form of ridda. Or ridda can also be when you intentionally abandon what Allah has commanded you to do. So it is also considered what? A form of ridda. So all these form of ridda, we have different way in which they are described in the Quran. Sometimes Quran use the word irtidad. Sometimes it's used the word inqilab. Wa man yanqalibu ala akibi falan yadurullahu shay'an. So sometimes you use the word inqilab, sometimes you use the word irtidad, sometimes you use the word ridda itself. So, and when we say ridda, it is specifically from migration from Islam to kufru. But there's another word we just mentioned now. That is the word what? Irtidad. So in other words, we can use the word irtidad and we can use the word ridda for both for apostasy. But the word irtidad is more general than the word ridda. When you use the word ridda, it is specifically mean going from kufru, going from Islam to kufru. But when you mention the word irtidad, it can be ruju'u min al-islami ila al-kufri aw ila ghairihi. It can be going out of Islam to kufru or to something lower than kufru, because it cannot be greater than kufru. So in other words, when Allah asks you to do something and you stop doing it or decide not to do it, it can be described by what? Irtidad. An example of that one is mentioned in Surah Al-Ma'idah. Allah says, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu man yartadda minkum an dinihi fasawfa ya'ti Allahu biqaumin yuhibbuhum wa yuhibbunahu a'izzatin 'alal kafirina azillatin 'alal mu'minina yujahiduna fi sabilillah wa la yakhafuna lawmata Allah said, Man yartadda minkum an dinihi, that is irtidad. Anybody who abandon his religion. And this verse is actually talking about people who abandon jihad. When they were invited to come and participate in jihad, they what? They were reluctant. They don't want to participate. And this verse comes that anybody that do irtidad, in other words, they actually did not renounce or abandon Islam completely. It's not Islam they want to abandon. But what they are actually doing here is what? They were reluctant in carrying out a particular instruction of Allah, which is what? A jihad fi sabilillah. So here Quran says, anybody who does this, that who abandon an instruction of Allah, which is compulsory, it is not optional. Allah said, فَسَوْفَ يَأْتِي اللَّهُ بِقَوْمٍ, which means for you to avoid ridda or irtidad, there is some condition that is necessary. For it not to happen, there must be mahabba. You must love Allah and Allah must love you. So if you don't love Allah or Allah doesn't love you, the next thing is what? Ridda or irtidad. That is why the first thing Allah mentioned is that they will love Allah and Allah will love them. And when you love Allah and Allah love you, falling into ridda will be difficult. Which means when people fall into ridda, the first problem is what? Lack of love. But is it everybody that doesn't love Allah that actually assume or understand that they don't love Allah? Nobody will say they hate Allah. Nobody will say he doesn't love Allah. No. Nobody will say he doesn't love Allah. But love of Allah in context of deen, it is wider than the way we look at it. Love of Allah, it is not only emotional. You know, when you love human being, it will be emotional, isn't it? It will be emotional, your love for human being. But love for Allah, it is not only emotional. It actually starts from what? Understanding who Allah is. When we say understanding, that is having knowledge about Allah, because you cannot understand Allah unless you can shame or what? So, but having understanding about Allah and submission to what? To whatever you have heard or learned about Allah. And that is actually the love of Allah. Because if you don't understand and if you don't submit, it will be very difficult for you to love. So there are sometimes some people challenge Allah because they don't even understand what Allah is. They don't even understand Allah's action in many places. So like somebody said, why will Allah do this to me? He's challenging Allah. If you love Allah, if you understand Allah, will you challenge him? So anything that comes to him in the first place, he will accept it as what he deserves. Rather than blaming any person, he will blame himself and he will even thank Allah for it. And that is the practice of the Sahaba, I mean the Anbiya and the Sahaba and the righteous servant of Allah. That when something evil or something they don't like happens to them, they will first of all blame themselves before they will not even blame anybody. Because anything that Allah make to happen to you is either you deserve that thing, or is either Allah want to use it to what? To erase your sin or to raise your rank. To raise your rank, to erase your sin, or you have been punished for what you have done, which is part of erasing of the sin. So now it's because Allah loves you. If Allah doesn't love you in the first place, Allah will not even deal with you. Allah will leave you alone until the day of Qiyamah, the day of judgment. Like somebody has offended you, and you know you have the right to invoke the law, to take it legal, to take it up legally with the person. And you know there will be justice in the court, and you keep quiet until when you meet in the court and the justice is done, and you know the person cannot have an escape. But if somebody you don't actually want problem for, or you don't want him to end up in court, or you don't want to create problem for him, or you want to lessen his problem, you will call him, let's settle this case. I don't want you to enter court. I don't want you to end up in prison. I don't want you to enter problem. Let's settle this case. Let's settle amicably. Or do this and do that. And the case is solved. It's because you have some affection for that person. It's because you love the person. And that is at human level. Also when Allah loves you, and something is going to be a problem or create problem for you in the hereafter or in the future, because there is law of actions and consequences. You can't escape your action. Anything you do, there's consequence. If it doesn't happen now, it will happen in the future. We all know this subconsciously or consciously. But sometimes we pretend not to know or to understand, especially when it affects us. You want everything you do to go into what? To go into oblivion. That nobody knows it and it doesn't happen. No, it doesn't work like that. If it has not, the consequence has not come, it will come. Either in this world or in the hereafter. Now, because Allah doesn't want to delay the consequence in the day of Qiyamah, so that you will not be disgraced, because the real disgrace is the disgrace of the day of Qiyamah, then Allah try you, or He make you to experience some trials or difficulty in this world. Is that not because of Allah love you? It's because of Allah love you. So that is not enough for you to be doubting what the love Allah have for you. And such a person will, instead of delaying or challenging Allah, will be thanking Allah for that. What we are saying in essence is that one of the reasons why people can easily fall into Ridda or Irtidat is because of lack of love for Allah when there is no Mahabbah. Because if you look at that fact, the first thing Allah mentioned is that, which means if you want to compare Yuhibbuhu wa Yuhibbuna with Al-Lazina Yatadu and Dinihi, if you want to compare, it means there is lack of what? Mahabbah. It's either the Mahabbah is not complete. That's Allah also mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah. Allah said, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَا يَتَّخِذُ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ أَندَادًا يُحِبُّونَهُمْ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ. So they love the Andad, the God they set up with Allah, they love them the same way they love Allah. You don't love anything above Allah. And like we have said, you can be emotional in your love for Allah, but it is not actually the basis of your love for Allah. It's not. You know, you can love somebody without even you knowing the person. Or without any person, without you having seen the person, or maybe the person has done some things to you, Abi. But when you want to love Allah, it has to start with your what? Your knowledge about Allah. You have to understand Allah, you have to read about Him, you have to have deep understanding about who Allah is. What is this? Who is Allah? That is the basis of your love. Allah, if you don't have that understanding, it will be very difficult for you to have the same mahabba Allah wants you to have for you. Because the love of Allah is such that you will know His greatness, you avoid His forbidding, and you rush and engage in whatever He has commanded you to do as soon as is possible, without any delay. So here Allah said, "Yuhibbuhum wa yuhibbunahu." A'izzatin alal kafirin, alillatin alal mu'minin. What? A'izzatin alal kafirin. So one of the sign that somebody love Allah is that He will be very humble to the Muslims. He'll be what? Very humble. So the Muslim, when we say Aizza, Allah, it did not say Aizza li. So when you say Aizza Allah, it does not mean the person is by nature humble or humiliated, but he brings himself down. He humble himself. You know, there's some difference between being humiliated and being what? Humble. It means the person intentionally or purposely what? Humble himself for Allah's sake, for the Muslims. But for the kuffar, it's not manipulatable. It cannot be controlled. When he says A'izzatin alal kafirin, it does not actually mean he will be oppressing the kafirin, because it's not part of Islam. Allah doesn't actually ask us to oppress. You only oppress who oppress you. You only fight who fights you. Like Allah says in Surah Al-Ma'idah. Allah says, no, Allah said that وَلَا يَرْجِمَنَّكُمْ. You should not use the enmity between you and somebody that you not do justice with that person. Somebody has now offended me, and I say Islam say then I will be violating their oppression. Then no, that is not what Islam says. You know, the nature of the kuffar, the nature of the non-Muslim, especially at that time, even up to today, is that they want to manipulate you. They want to control you. They want to use you against Islam. They want to use you to destroy Islam by your own hand. But for the Muslim who love Allah, Allah love them, nobody can manipulate them. You can't use me to destroy Islam. You can't use me against Muslim. You can't use me against my fellow brother. No, it's not possible. But for those who are saying Allah, it will be easy to invite them and tell them to go and do something evil to their brother, and they will find it easy and they will carry it out. But for those who love Allah, Allah love them, you can never manipulate them. It's not possible. It does not mean they will be violating your right, or they will be oppressing you. No. The meaning is that you cannot manipulate them. You cannot use them against another woman being who has not committed any sin against them. But for the kuffar or for the weak Muslims, you see them being used by the kuffar, by the enemy, by the munafiqun, to harm Muslim, to harm Islam. Either unintentionally or what? Or intentionally. So where we've actually gone is that Ridda can be from the heart, that your creed, you change, maybe you have some belief or some understanding that is not actually having basis in Islam, like that of time of Abu Bakr. Even that one has to do with Af'il more than Aqidah, but it actually start from the Aqidah. After the Prophet Muhammad, they said, since the Prophet have died, they will stop giving zakat. Then Abu Bakr considered that as what? As Ridda. And he said he's going to fight them. Umar was hesitant on that. Abu Bakr insisted and maintained his ground that this is Ridda. So he fought them. What did they do? They said they are not going to pay zakat again. They did not say they have left Islam, but they said they are not going to be paying zakat. So which means violating one of the pillars or one of the part of Islam can make somebody to become a kafir, and it will be legal for you to what? To wage war against him. So another one is the one that has to do with our speech. An example of that will happen when Prophet Muhammad was going to the battle of Uhud. So on that battle, Prophet promised a Sahaba that Allah has promised him that he is going to what? He is going to bring down the emperor of the Faris and the Kisra, that is the Roman Empire and the Persian Empire. Then, and these are very mighty empire, especially the Persian Empire has been in existence for more than 12th century, and nobody has ever overcome them. So it was the Munafiqun, they said this is ridiculous. This Prophet Muhammad with this small group of people, you want to go and fight these mighty soldiers who have never been defeated, and they are warriors, and you defeat them. They said this is ridiculous, it is not feasible. They were saying it among themselves, and some Muslim who does not understand their motive, they join them. Then Allah sent Jibril to inform Prophet Musa. Prophet invites them that, why are you saying this? They say, oh, we are just joking. We are just joking. We are not serious about it. Allah said, Abillahi wa ayatihi wa rasulihi kuntum. So is it Allah is past that he revealed to his prophet that he is going to defeat these people? Or the prophet himself that you are joking with? Who among them deserve to be joked with? To turn into funny, into something you use to make fun. La ta'taziru qad kafartum. Do not give any unreasonable excuse. There's no excuse in this. You have become what? Kafir. Even the Munafiqun, that one they were kufar before. But for the mu'minun among them, they are the one that Allah says, La ta'dal qad kafartum. You have become a kafir by the iman. Because the Munafiqun who started does not even have iman in the first place. There's no iman for them. But Allah said, Innafu ta'ifatin minkum. So we may overlook the shortcoming. The meaning is not that they have not committed the kufr. But Allah may overlook them. When they were overlooked, it means Allah may forgive them. Probably because what they did is act of ignorance or misinformation. But that does not mean what they did has not happened. It is just Allah forgive them out of his what? Forgiveness. Allah is opt forgiving. So here it was actually speech. They did not have intention of violating Islam. They did not have intention of committing kufr, especially the mu'min among them, who their intention is clean. Their intention was not to become kafir. But what they were saying with what? Word of their mouth. But here Allah said, that is why somebody has to avoid words of kufr. It is very, very dangerous. Even sometimes when you don't have an intention, if what you said is conscious, it's not out of, well, maybe you lose your memory or use your sense, but you know what you are saying. Even your intention is not to become a kafir. If it means mocking Islam or mocking any part of Islam or mocking the scholars, you don't mock any scholar because they are one of the sha'air of deen. There's what you call sha'air, the symbols of Allah. So whether the Quran, whether the Muslim, whether the Kaaba, whether the ulama of deen, when you mock them, it means you have relegated Islam. It means you have belittled Islam. It's an act of kufr in the sight of Allah. So, and it can also be our action. So when somebody carry out an action, that means kufru. So whether intentionally or unintentionally, it is still kufru. But the meaning is that, does that kufru make that person to go out of Islam in the sight of Allah or not? So if it is intentional and you are aware of what you have done, then they will doubt you are a kafir already. But if it is unintentionally, Allah will forgive you the same way Allah says He's going to forgive these people. Like the fast we mentioned yesterday, Allah says, Man kafara illa man ukriha. Look at the word. Even the person that is forced, it has also become a kafir. He has committed kufr. Only that is going to be forgiven because it was done out of what? Coercion. So, illa man ukriha qalbuhu mutma'inun. So, then another form of ridda is somebody who's done ridda out of what? Doubts. When you doubt it, when you doubt Islam or doubt any aspect of Islam, then that is ridda. It may mean somebody to become what? A kafir. So because of our time, another important area we are supposed to talk about is that the hukm of murtad. Somebody who have committed ridda is what? Is called murtad. Is apostasy or an apostate. So what is the hukm? What is the judgment in Islam? The judgment is that the person will face death penalty. The person will face what? Death penalty. The person will be sentenced to death. That's the ruling. So the hadith of the Prophet said, he said, Man baddala dinahu faqtuluhu. Whoever changes religion should be killed. But there's one important point here of questions that people used to ask. The question is that in the Quran, there are two Quranic rules. The first one principle is that La ikraha fi din. There is no coercion. You cannot force somebody to be Muslim. You cannot force somebody. This is a Quran verse. Now we say somebody that become a what? A murtad should be executed, should face death penalty. Is there no contradiction in these two things? Of course there is no contradiction. The explanation is that, like Ibn Taymiyyah and some other scholars observe that when a murtad, when somebody falls into ridda, and his ridda, it becomes a public affair, it becomes a social problem. Or somebody that is ridda, is kufru, is a what? Problem in the society, then such a person is going to face death penalty. And it is likened to somebody committing treason. You know treason? You know, it's actually when you contempt against the government. Like if you are trying to, or rebellion against the government, or against a what? A valid government, a government, an incumbent government. If you commit a rebellion or a treason against the government, any country, anywhere you go in the world, the judgment is what? Sentence to death. In any form of treason, when you work against government. Now, when we have Islamic system of government, and you're already a part of Muslim, and you say you become a kafir, and it becomes a social problem, it means you are fighting the government. It means you are fighting the system of Allah. So your judgment is similar to that of treason. So which means the person is being treated as somebody who has committed what? Treason or rebellion against the government. And from here we understand that when there is no system of government, or when there is no Islamic system of government, executing or carrying out that kind of what? Judgment may be difficult. Because it is actually against the government, number one. Number two is the government that will give that verdict. But when there is no system of Islam in operation, it may be very difficult to implement that kind of law. So which means it is not affairs of individual. You're a kafir, I'm going to kill you. No. It is the government that will pronounce and the government that will execute. So it has to be Islamic government. So from here, there is no contradiction between the first la ikraha fi din and this or the fact that say we should what? It will execute the person that changes religion. If the person that commits ridda or irtidat is doing it privately and does not affect the public or the society, then nobody will deal with it. And even the other one that's supposed to be executed, the government will give him 3 days to think over it, and he will be invited. And mind you, he has to be, like some scholars observe that both male and female, then they have to be matured, sensible, and they have to be Muslim in the first place. It will not be somebody who has fallen into that kind of problem out of doubt or confusion or coercion. There are some that observe that no, it is only the male, that the judgment of the female is quite different from that. But some say no, both male and female. And then the person will be what? The person will be invited and what? Will be examined. I hope there's no problem with your sense. I hope nobody is forcing you to do this. I hope you are not in doubt. I hope there's no confusion. You know what you are doing. It is intentional. Then you'll be given 3 days. And you imagine, somebody knows that he's going to die after 3 days. And he has been admonished and sermonized in the best manner. And he still insisted. Then you must know there's a problem. There must be a problem. Because it's not immediately you declare such a kind of thing, the Sharia will be what? And like I've said, if it is somebody who is doing it privately without making it public problem, nobody will tamper with him. Nobody will leave him. So even when the Islam says jihad should be done, that is not, the jihad is not actually a war of oppression, of subjugation, or committing corruption in the land. No, it is actually to install or establish the law of Allah. And if that can be done without anything, then nobody should be touched, nobody should be killed, nobody should be attacked, nobody should be tampered. Except somebody that said, no, I will not allow the law of Allah to be installed. And even then, there are people who are not combatants, who are not part of the system, I mean, who do not have capability to fight or who does not engage, should not be tampered with. In other words, female, elderly people, little children, nobody is touched. It's only anybody who stand in the path that say, no, I will not allow you to go there. So in other words, Islam is a religion of justice and a religion of peace. And Islam wants the law of Allah to prevail so that there will always be complete justice. If you look at the world, everywhere in the world today, there's nowhere, any place where there's a complete justice or complete peace. It's because of the law of Allah. If you look at the place where people are using the law of Allah, even partially, you see that peace there is more than any other place where the law of Allah is not being used. So you can examine, you can study it internationally. So in other words, what we are saying is that Arida, the judgment, the hukm in Islam is that the person will face death penalty, but there are conditions for it that we have said. So summarily, Rida, when somebody committed it, whether Rida or Ritidal, and it means Rujum min al-Islam ila kufri, it means the judgment is what? Is a death sentence. And well, like we have said, if it is private matter, the person does not bring it to the public, so nobody will touch it. Islam does not say such a person should be tampered with. So may Allah forgive us and protect us, make us Muslim, live Muslim and die as Muslim, and count us among the followers of Prophet here in this one and the day of Qiyamah. May Allah protect us and prevent us from falling into Ridda, any form of kufr or shirk. Subhanaka Allahumma bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Without wasting our time, we can take question.
I think my question is Abdul Qawli. A person make a speech that will go out of Islam. So the person that used to, the people that used to do their sentences that you mentioned, oh God, why me? Why I this time? So we can consider this as a word of ridda.
Yeah, it's a word of kufr. It's actually a form of ridda. You understand? But the person has committed ridda, know that that's a speech of kufr. It's a kalima to kufr. So, but to regard the person as a kafir or to declare him as a kafir, it has some other procedure. So, is it because it doesn't understand what he's saying, or does not do the gravity, or because of ignorance? Like we mentioned yesterday, somebody may confuse. It's not everybody that falls into kufr or will declare a kafir, like you said. So we have to explain to the person and make him understand. So just like that fast, Allah says He will forgive some of them because they have done it ignorantly, unknowingly. So the same thing here. If the person doesn't understand or is making mistake or is done it out of confusion, then he may be excused, he may be forgiven by Allah. Then it means we have to explain, we have to clarify and make him understand. We have to make him understand things. So, but if after that is done and the person sees instead that he doesn't have a problem with that, then there's no doubt that person is a kafir. I was committed with that. No.
I should not be person that maybe you speak, you utter the kind of kufr, but you try to then inform such person that this is what you said. No, this is what I understand, this is what I'm using. And it's not even that he himself is even, for instance, someone that is saying that there is mistake in the Quran. So, and he's calling people that he's telling people about this. So, what can we do to how to accommodate to such person? Since there's no any Islamic ruling that they can call
There's a question online.
We have to now.
There's a question online.
Okay, we have to explain things to that person, like we have just said in this case. So if it is confusion, and in manner and the way we present the explanation also matters. The fact, you see, when you want to deal with things that are sensitive like this, you don't have to be emotional, and it has to be knowledge based. It has to be purely knowledge. You have to, appeal and talk to that person purely knowledge, not emotional. Of course, it may make you angry, but you have to keep the anger. So you have to approach the person, explain to him in the best way the person will understand. So appeal to his sense of reasoning. So if after that person still say, this is what I want to do, then there's no doubt that this is a kafir, and it should be avoided, and people should be warned, so that it will not corrupt other people. So he said there's a mistake. When Allah says there's no mistake in it, then there can anything from Allah cannot have mistake. If you say there's a mistake in Quran, then you are saying possibly there's a mistake in your creation. That's what you are saying. So do you agree there's a mistake in your creation? If you say no, so how do you now expect mistake in Allah's book? It's perfect.
The question goes thus: those who do it after being executed, are they also Muslim that we can pray for after their demise?
So they say if somebody committed Ridda, fall into Ridda, and they are executed, are they still also Muslim that we can pray for? When Islam give Hajj for a particular offense, so the expectation or the assumption is that the Hajj, the judgment, will erase the sin of that person. Like somebody who commits zina now, or somebody who drink alcohol, or somebody who committed qasf, that is accused somebody. You understand? So when the Hajj, when the punishment is performed on that person, so it is expected that that punishment will erase the sin of that person. But in the case of Ridda, the case may not be the same. The reason why it's not the same is that the person that kafir, had it been the person renounced the kufru, that I'm not a kafir, you understand?
No.
He's still a Muslim. But he insisted, that is why he was executed. And Islam is all about what is in our heart and what we say out by our mouths. So the person that is a kafir, anybody that is a kafir, the Islamic ruling judgment on that person is very, very clear. So that is going to be treated as a kafir, no more, no less. And that is the way he died, and that is the way he will be resurrected, and that is the way he's going to be judged on the day of Qiyamah. Allah Ta'ala.
In the absence of question, we'll call it today and continue by next week, inshallah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to continue to guide us. Amen. Subhanahu wa ta'ala.